Makeup is absolutely halal at home. So this hadith that people, they memorize it. أبغض الحلال إلى الله الطلاق. The most disliked halal to Allah
I didn't know
is
that at all.
talaq. It's not true. When it comes to jealousy, when it comes to the envying others, it shows a lack of belief in the decree of Allah Ta'ala. Are we going to let just a bit of a desire that I want to look a certain way, etc., completely banish us from Allah's mercy?
Bismillah wa salatu salam ala Rasulullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And welcome to this very short edition of our Hot Topics podcast with Sheikh Yahya Rabi and Ustad. We have a few questions from our Instagram followers.
We had to pick only a couple.
Yeah, subhanAllah.
We got mashallah, tabarakallah.
Yeah, we got a lot of good questions about it. SubhanAllah, you just gotta pick a couple of the best, inshallah.
You want me to start off? Inshallah.
Bismillah.
One of the sisters has asked, can you please give advice to the brothers and sisters to not judge people who have been divorced before?
طيب, Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, Thana'u Lillah, Salatu Salam ala Rasulillah. Divorce is something that's part of our deen, meaning that Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, He told us in the Quran that if a marriage is not working out and it's not, it's become extremely difficult, divorce is a way out. It's a way out, and it's not something that's looked down upon. It's not something that's frowned upon like in some of the other religions. In other religions, divorce is considered an evil thing, right? In Islam, there's nothing wrong with it, right? There were Sahaba of the Prophet ﷺ who got divorced. There was no issue with it, and society didn't see that person as someone who was less than others and, who's looked down upon, etc. Rather, if they got divorced and if it didn't work out, they'll get married again. So I don't believe that this thing that exists in some of our cultures, that if a sister especially gets divorced, because it's a lot more difficult for our sisters.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When they get divorced, that is very difficult for her to get married again. Why would I marry, divorcee, and so on? That is not the end of the world. Then you shouldn't be treated as if it's the end of the world. Rather, if one marriage hasn't worked out, then inshallah there perhaps will be another one. And Allah Azza wa Jalla says that in the Quran, وَإِن يَتَفَرَّقَا, if they separate, يُغْنِ اللَّهُ كُلًّا مِنْ سَعَتِهِ, that Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala will enrich each one of them from His vast bounties, right?
That's
Allah Azza wa Jalla will grant them from His bounties. There's nothing wrong with it. Right, but of course, it's not something that people should rush towards and to get divorced. We want marriages to work out, and we don't want them to break down. But if that is not the case, then it's a solution, inshallah ta'ala.
Yes,
Right, and there's this narration that people, they always quote, and they say that there's a hadith that the most disliked halal to Allah is divorce. That's a fabricated hadith. It doesn't exist. There's no such thing as something that Allah has made halal that He hates. It doesn't exist. It's a made-up hadith that people, they lie about. It's not true. So this hadith that people, they memorize it. أبغض الحلال إلى الله الطلاق. The most disliked halal to Allah is talaq. It's not true. The Prophet ﷺ never said that. There's no halal that Allah has made permissible that He dislikes. All the halal, Allah Azza wa Jal does not hate it.
Even subhanAllah, we were learning through the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ that Khadija radiallahu anha was married twice before the Prophet ﷺ.
Yeah, but she was widowed.
Widowed and then divorced. I heard, I could be wrong.
Both of her husbands, I believe they passed away. Both of her husbands passed away. But some of the wives of the Prophet ﷺ were divorcees. Right? Zainab radiallahu anha, she was divorced by Zayd ibn Haritha, and the Prophet ﷺ married her. Right? And others. And they were divorced, and the Prophet ﷺ married them, a lot of them. Right? Most of the wives of the Prophet ﷺ were either widows or the divorcees. The only wife of the Prophet ﷺ that was a virgin was Aisha radiallahu anha. Na'am.
Barakallah feek, Sheikh. I'm going to combine two of the questions. So one person is asking, what's the Islamic view on makeup and music? And another is asking about using music on Instagram Reels. SubhanAllah, sometimes I'll see a video that's for a good cause, and then it has music in the background.
Allah musta'an. One thing something that I try to remind myself of and remind others of is that just like you want to have ongoing good deeds after we pass away, don't be one who passes away and you die and your sins are still alive.
Yeah.
If you're one who's sharing things that are haram, music's haram. If you're sharing haram and things that anger Allah Tabarak with social media, what goes on the internet is going to be there forever. Therefore, once you pass away, that's going to continue. People, every time someone views it, every time someone sees it, you get a portion of that sin. Who wants that for themselves? We're struggling with the sins that we already have. Do we want to add a huge load to our sins already that we already have? Nobody wants that, of course. I remember recently I was told of a story of a sister who passed away, and she had all these videos on TikTok of music and dancing, all this stuff, and her parents were begging hackers to hack the account, shut it down. Right? So do you want that? Her friends were begging for people to find a way to shut down the account because they didn't want evil deeds to continue while she's passed away. So why are we doing that to ourselves whilst we're alive? Do something about it before you pass away.
SubhanAllah, SubhanAllah.
Probably the second part of the question was,
was it?
and we can probably combine this with one of the other questions is the sister was asking about the permissibility of makeup, and
yes.
another question was as well is the dress code of a woman.
Jameel. Makeup is absolutely halal at home. Right?
I'll stop breathing for a second. I'm like, I'm being
That's
taught wrong.
absolutely halal. She can put all the makeup she wants in the comfort of her home for her husband, etc. But not to leave her home with, not to go outside with it, right? Because the thing is, who are you beautifying yourself for? You know, the people that you should be beautifying yourself for, the only person you should beautify yourself for is your husband. Right? Why do you need to show your beauty to others? And it goes back to what I said earlier, which is that the Prophet ﷺ told us that the curse of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala is upon a woman who goes out and beautifies herself.
Allahu Akbar.
The curse of Allah is not an easy matter. What does it mean that the curse of Allah is upon you? It means that Allah will distance you or expel you from His mercy. That's what it means that the curse of Allah is upon us. We are in dire need of the mercy of Allah Azza wa Jal. Are we going to let just a bit of a desire that I want to look a certain way, etc., completely banish us from Allah's mercy? It's not worth it. And the other thing is that every person who glances at that sister when she's covered herself in makeup and so on and dressed in a certain way, etc., she gets the sin of everyone who looks at her. Yani if you're causing people to look your way and so on, you know, there's this thing that the people say, you know, you should lower your gaze anyway. But if you're the one causing fitna, you share a part of that sin.
Yeah.
You can't just tell people look away when you are attracting that attention.
Yeah.
So you should be one who dresses modestly, and then when you're dressing modestly and they're still looking at, then you can say, yeah, you should be lowering your gaze, right? So every single person has a responsibility. And when it comes to dress code, Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala has made it very clear what the dress code of men and women are. We're told to dress modestly, and Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala has ordained upon the women to wear the hijab, the jilbab, to cover up, right? To not wear anything tight, to wear a garment that covers the whole body. The only things that are allowed to be exposed are her face and her hands, right? And even that is something that the scholars differ upon. Yeah. But let's say that you follow the opinion that it's okay to expose that, okay, but everything else should be covered. Meaning that you should not wear anything that's revealing. You should not wear any clothes that are tight on the body, that show the shape of the body. You should not wear anything that's tight to the body, that even if you're wearing jilbab or abaya or you're wearing proper hijab, that you wear something on top that's very tight to the body, that shows the shape of the body. All that's haram, right? Because it defeats the whole purpose of hijab, right? So the hijab is something that's very important. The Prophet ﷺ told us that at the end of times, that there are going to be women who are kasiyat ariyat, who are clothed and unclothed at the same time.
Allah.
Now when the ulama, they explain this hadith, they explain it on a number of matters. They say that it means that they're going to be women who are wearing clothes, but those clothes are see-through, you see their body through it. That's one meaning of it. Another meaning of it, they say that it means that they're going to be women who some of their body is covered, another part of the body is not covered, that they're meant to cover. And that's haram. Another meaning, they say that they're going to be women who are covered up, but the clothes are so tight that it's as if they're not covered up. You can see the whole body shape. You can see everything. Everything's exposed. Another explanation of it, the ulama, they say, is that it's referring to iman. That it's the women who are covered up, but they lack iman. Right? So all of this, the hijab and the clothes that Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala has ordained us to wear and to cover up with, it is connected to our faith as well. It demonstrates, as you say, the level of faith that we have.
Yeah.
Right? Our actions, our statements, it demonstrates the level of iman that's in our heart. It's not possible for one to say that I have iman in my heart and my iman is intact and I have strong faith if you're not doing what Allah Azza wa Jalla has commanded to do. Our actions, our statements, the way we dress, the way we look, our appearance, it reflects what's in our hearts the majority of times. The majority of times, not all the time, but the majority of times. Therefore, if we're not doing that which Allah Azza wa Jalla has ordained upon us, it shows a lack of faith. And I do not believe a person can say that they are a good person if they are abandoning what Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala has ordained upon them, what Allah Azza wa Jalla has made mandatory, etc. You can't be a good person if you're not doing what Allah is asking you to do. Being a good person not measured by how good you are to people and how you treat people, that's a good thing, yes. But if you're neglecting the right of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, then you can't be a good person.
Yeah, subhanAllah. Like imagine there was a person, so Allah is the greatest of examples, but imagine there was a person that gave you everything that you own, you know, like the house you live in, the clothes on your
Yeah.
back, the money that you have, and then you displease them and you say, like, you do things that, you know, they actively hate, and then you say, no, but I still love this person. Yani,
Exactly.
subhanAllah, it doesn't make
Exactly.
sense.
Exactly. I'll give you an example. You know something I found very strange? This happened in my last visit to Australia when I came last year. I visited a school. It's an Islamic school. Okay. So this Islamic school is based here in Melbourne. They will give me a tour of the school. And then I went to some of the offices and I saw one of the staff that was working there. So there was a Australian lady that was working there. And this Australian lady, she was original Australian, yani. She was covered head to toe, right? So I thought she was Muslim. And then I was surprised they told me she's not Muslim. But this is her uniform. The school requires her to dress like this. So she's required to dress like this. So she's dressed so modestly, covered up, proper hijab, that you never think she's non-Muslim. And then I said, what on earth will get a non-Muslim to dress up like this? Because they pay her a very good salary. Money. She doesn't get that salary elsewhere. That's what they told me. So she will do anything for money. What about Allah Azza wa Jalla telling you He's going to give you Jannah? He's going to give you the Akhirah. He's going to give you blessings in this world and the hereafter if you do what Allah Azza wa Jalla is asking you to do. This non-Muslim who doesn't believe in Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala will cover up for money, but you won't cover up for the ultimate reward of Allah Azza wa Jalla. It doesn't make sense to me. I was shocked that a non-Muslim will cover up for money because this person pays my bills. I'll do whatever they tell me to do. Allah Azza wa Jalla gives you everything that you have and more, and will give you even greater things when you obey Him. Why wouldn't you do what Allah asks you to do?
SubhanAllah. This is a question from a sister who says, how do I keep my heart clean from anything bad such as jealousy, music, etc.? We've touched on music, but you know, keeping your heart pure from jealousy.
Wallahi, the thing is, when it comes to jealousy, when it comes to the envying others, it shows a lack of belief in the decree of Allah Ta'ala. Because Allah Ta'ala has decreed for every single person that He's going to grant them certain blessings and certain things, etc. When you have certainty in that and you believe that fully, then you're going to be content with what Allah Azza wa Jalla has granted you, and you will not envy others and be jealous of others. Because jealousy and envy, when the ulama they explain the hasad, it is that you wish that the person loses the blessing and you get it yourself, right? And that's evil, right? It's evil that you want people to lose the blessings that they have, right? So this is something that's haram. The way we combat that, it is that number one, that we constantly ask Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala to free our hearts from that, because we all have elements that we can envy others and be jealous of others. We all suffer from that, human beings. So we need to constantly ask Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala to free our hearts from that. That's the first thing. Secondly, it is to constantly look at the blessings that Allah Azza wa Jalla has granted you. When you see and reflect on the blessings that Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala has granted you, that will preoccupy you from ever seeing the blessings of others, because you'll be so busy with your own blessings that you won't have time to look at other people's blessings, right? Keep yourself busy with that. If you were just to focus on what the blessings that Allah has given you, Allah Azza wa Jalla has given you Islam, Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala has given you a roof of your head, Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala has given you a beautiful family, Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala has given you wealth, Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala has given you a good job, Allah Azza wa Jalla has granted you education, Allah Azza wa Jalla has given you, so much. If you just were to go through all these blessings one by one, you wouldn't have time to think of other people's blessings. It wouldn't even occur to you, be like, I have too much anyway. Like, I don't have time to take this person's blessings, right? And then on top of that, the more you are connected to the Quran and the book of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, that keeps your heart sound. A way to keep your heart sound is to have a strong relationship with the Quran. But when I mean you have a strong relationship with the book of Allah Azza wa Jal, I don't mean just reciting it and listening to it and memorizing it. I mean understanding the Quran, looking at the meaning of the Quran, trying to understand the Quran, reflecting upon it. Because Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah tabarak wa ta'ala said, there is nothing more beneficial for the heart than reflecting upon the book of Allah Azza wa Jal. If you really want to purify your heart and cure your heart and to get rid of all the illnesses of the heart, the Quran is the greatest way to do that. Now,
Barakallah fiqh, Shaykh.
I think last question, or just one more question, and then I think we'll wrap it up, inshallah. I know we have to go. What is the best method to learning Arabic, and should one prioritize learning Nahu Sarf?
The Arabic language is extremely important. Of course, learning Arabic is very important, but of course, in order to learn anything, you require a teacher. And then when it comes to learning a language, anyone who's learned a language will tell you that in order to learn that language well, you need to immerse yourself in that language. So you need to be constantly hearing that language, you're constantly listening to it, you're reading it, you're trying to speak it, whatever you learn, you're practicing it, etc. And then that question, which is that, do you prioritize learning Nahwu and Sarf, which is grammar, Nahwu, and Sarf is morphology. And these are things that you should learn, but you shouldn't limit Arabic to only learning these things. Because when you're learning language, for instance, if someone came to you and they said to you, I know English, but all they know is English grammar, they're not able to speak English, would you consider this person knowing English? They don't know English. Because the whole purpose of a language is be able to communicate in it. If you're not able to communicate in a language, then you don't know the language, right? So you need to learn all the skills of the language. You need to learn how to speak it, how to comprehend it. You need to know the grammar, you need to know the rhetoric, you need to know the morphology, etc. So do all of it. Don't just focus on a certain aspect of the language, right? All that is very important. And the way I learned Arabic in London. So what I did was that I used to, when I was learning Arabic, everything I used to watch on YouTube was only in Arabic. Right? And I did that for a very long time. And it had a great effect on me, meaning it made me very familiar with the language. Even if I didn't understand everything that was being said, I would figure things out through the context and so on. And it made me very familiar with it. And eventually, you got to a stage. Also, I was attending classes, of course, which helped that, And in about 2 years, I learned the Arabic language in London without having to travel to Arab country. So anyone can do it. It's just about your dedication, how much you want to achieve it, how much you want to get there, and so on, how determined you are. And inshallah ta'ala, with the help of Allah, the assistance of Allah, you get there.
That's the method that, may Allah reward the brothers from AMAU.
Yeah.
That's the method that they take for the Arabic. They say, as much, we don't want to just teach you grammar. We want you to be able to have a conversation.
That's
we want you to be able, that which is also very important.
That's important.
So,
Definitely.
Alhamdulillah.
Definitely. That's very important.
May Allah reward you, Shaykh. Jazakallah.
Allah yabarik fikum.
Jazakumullah khair for watching.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.